Imagine a world where data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence join forces to supercharge advanced work packaging. In an exhilarating journey of design thinking, Research Team 391 has unveiled a trove of opportunities that will propel your organization to new heights. In this presentation, you will experience a game-changing roadmap that revolutionizes AWP analytics and software solutions, unlocking your capital project's true potential with unparalleled safety, efficiency, and cost-effectiveness. Here to present, please welcome Dario Rigaud, Evann Smith, Martin Swaine, Christopher McComb, Kenny Kelly, Eric Crivella, and Mark Mehta.
What do you wish for the future of advanced work packaging? Hello, good morning. Welcome to our session. Today we are presenting the results of our research on intelligent advanced work packaging. This idea of advanced work packaging, assisted by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics. But before we get started, we would like to invite you all to share your thoughts. Please scan the QR code or simply go to menti.com with the number 26293775 and share your thoughts. What do you wish for the future of AWP? Close your eyes just for a moment. Paint a picture, paint a time when AWP has evolved beyond expectations. So what do you wish for it? If you are not so familiar with AWP yet, I'm sure you are familiar with construction. Share your ideas, what the future of construction looks like. We would like to hear your thoughts. This is your chance to take an active part on this presentation. We're going to be discussing the results at the end of it. This question will remain open throughout the whole presentation. So please take a moment and share your ideas with us. I guess some of you wonder, but why is this important? Why do we need to care about the future of AWP? Well, let's recap on what we discussed yesterday, what Dr. Weber shared with us. The worldwide energy sector seeing dramatic change, energy transition driving the demand up. All that simply means an exceptional level of construction activity. That's why it's important. I guess we all agree that construction matters to the world economy. But what's the problem? It has a long record of productivity. Craft spending 2/3 of their time on non-productive activities is a huge challenge. And that's exactly why advanced work packaging emerged as a process to help us increase productivity, reduce costs, improve safety. A process that has been there for a while. If you think about that, advanced work packaging journey started about 20 years ago. Back in 2005, workforce planning was recognized by the Construction Owners Association of Alberta as a best practice. Later, in 2015, advanced work packaging was recognized as a best practice by CII. In 2019, the Joint Working Group released the first version of AWP data requirements. Multiple initiatives have been deployed for advanced work packaging. including engineering, supply chain, commissioning, and startup. Nowadays, in 2023, the same group that released the AWP data requirements, we're working on AWP data models. We're working on data standardization, aligning data requirements to data standards like CIFOS. As you can see, there's been a continuous effort to make this better. Yesterday, RT-390 also shared with us steps to implement AWP. They mentioned enterprise implementations, project implementations. I'm sure you all capture that managing effective interfaces is key for AWP. But what is in the middle of this? People. People are in the middle of this. People responsible for the design, people responsible for the material, schedule, resources, workforce planning, everything. But what happened with people is they rely on other people to make decisions. They keep making phone calls, sending emails, having meetings, trying to exchange and analyze information that is available. And this is exactly where technology can help us. This is exactly where a good data management can help us to make informed decisions. And this is where artificial intelligence can help us to make a difference. With regards to artificial intelligence, it is important to clarify that for this work we use an umbrella view of artificial intelligence. So that simply means that we look for all things that act as an AI agent. So including machine learning, data science, deep learning, and big data. So basically, if it looks like an AI agent, it was part of our scope of work, and we were discussing it. We were interested in discussing. But also, about 20 years ago, CMU researchers invented CAPTCHA. Why is this important? Well, this is important because CAPTCHA became a wonderful tool for AI training. So CMU researchers have been studying AI for a long time as well. So for those who are not familiar with CAPTCHA, this was developed to separate us from bots. So sometimes it's about a simple checkbox. Sometimes it requires some image identification. So to some extent, we feel like this journey was meant to be. So both academia and industry, they had parallel journeys that to some extent took us to the point that we are today, the research team 391, leveraging opportunities for implementing AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to the AWP workflow. Our overall objective was to identify, characterize, rank opportunities. It was all about opportunities for applying artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics to the AWP workflow. So always looking to ways to how we can improve this work process. So for this presentation, there are 3 takeaways. The first one, aspects of AWP that can be enhanced by AI and machine learning. The second takeaway is what areas of AWP, what opportunities are the ones with the highest impact, potential impact? And the third takeaway, what are the risks or challenges of implementing this technology to the AWP workflow? And to do that, we'll take you on a 40-minute journey. So we'll start by finding the challenges, followed by evaluating the opportunities, and then looking to the future. And just like the Daft Punk song, are you familiar with it? Well, work it harder, make it better. Do it faster, make us stronger. More than ever, hour after hour, work is never over. So ladies and gentlemen, this is Intelligent AWP. Thank you.
Thanks, Dario. Okay, my piece now, right? So finding the challenges. So it was really quite an interesting beginning piece to this, because when we first started, we thought, okay, everyone will be really excited about AI, the potential, and actually, because we are all engineering/construction mindset people, we immediately went to the, I'm not so sure, let's look at the areas of what we need to do first. So we've developed the, there we go, the AWP hierarchy, AI hierarchy of needs, thank you. I told you. And so it's like, so we need to work through the bottom first. So we need to, that was that standard data issues that we expected that would, basically derail the AI if we jumped straight into a piece of software at the top. So we then basically worked our way through each level in order to get to really the great stuff at the top of that pyramid. So the key things that we looked at in those early interviews, you can see the screen, but looking from left to right, really was AWP in practice, AWP data management, and then getting to the cool stuff of AI ML for construction, and then the free drop. If money and time's actually quite critical in that, it was no issue, what would you do, okay? So it was really a great opportunity to work with CII on this, because normally when I've done use case stories, et cetera, or user stories in this case, you get people with free text, and it is a nightmare to try and collate all that in an Excel spreadsheet, trying to classify it. But what we actually used with Chris from CII gave us some great steer, is we looked at the who, the what, the how, etc., and the benefit, and also what was the what were we trying to solve? What was going to be solved by this use case story? So an example there: as an owner, I want to improve data quality across the board in order to enable AWP instead of having to manipulate data on the fly. And if you've manipulated data on the fly in Excel spreadsheets, access databases, live on a construction site, that's not a place you want to be, but probably a place where most of us have been at some point in our careers. Because we had these 70 now user stories that we created, we could easily classify them through the system that we worked out. Once we could classify them, then we could then basically map them to the expected and the feasibility study, which then gave us 7 key challenge areas which we think AI could help us with. I won't read them here because we're just going to go through them now. Okay, so the first one, not surprisingly, because it's data collection and processing. So we really need to figure out how AI could help us. We thought it could help us with filling the gaps in, understanding the patterns, etc. AI is fantastic for pattern recognition and really could help us fast-track that data processing space. Second one, as you see, we're kind of working on that pyramid now. Second one, workplace planning. Okay, we really want the person in the field to supply them as much of the accurate, detailed information, not all the information, because they don't need all the information, the right information to the field so they can do their work in the most efficient, productive way, so we can improve that productivity. But equally, we want them to be able to send it back to us in the center, in the office, etc., in the home offices, so we can actually understand exactly what challenges they've got, so we can predict where we can solve them ahead of their time. Okay, good one for ROI, and from a Shell perspective, evaluating the ROI of, okay, we don't want to do just things because it's cool. So every user story needs to have a good ROI, and it needs to have a purpose. Why are we doing it? It's got to be solving, and it's back to that user story. I say, what are we solving? It's got to have a clear ROI, but and a clear purpose. And then like the sat navs, this is quite interesting because this is where we've dreamed. Me and Kenny have kind of dreamed in this for many years since we've been doing this. It's like, why can't I have like a sat-nav technology feeding into my AWP system? We've got it in our cars. It will tell you alternative routes. It will tell you where the petrol stations are if you're running out of petrol. So it's key, or if EV charging points even, right? So it's key, but yet so that is one of the key areas we saw that AI could really help us with, giving us alternatives and predicting those constraints as well. AI is definitely an area that can help us with materials management. We need to digitize, we semi-digitize materials management, but we need to digitize the whole materials management, and then we can really plug AI into that. And it's not just materials management, it's document management as well, it's supplier documentation, so we can really see where those constraints are on the previous challenge 4, really where they are, because ultimately, the people in the field can't build stuff if they haven't got the right materials. That's fundamentally the driver. And then progress management. Okay, from an owner point of view, we want to understand exactly where that project is. And what we want to get to a point is, I want real-time, fact-based progress. I don't want people's opinions of where progress is. And this is an interesting picture. I think there's 7 guys there. It is guys, unfortunately. So seven people standing there. So if you've ever been on a construction site and senior leadership have turned up, I used to call it industrial tourism, and they turn up, and thanks, I need a laugh, there you go. So, and there they are standing there, and I guarantee you there are 7 different opinions on where the progress is. It's not fact-based, it's opinion-based. And also, from a Shell perspective, those people are standing in the middle of, I don't know, I don't even want to count it, how many trip hazards, okay? They are indirect labor. They are not normally there. That is not their world. Their world is behind a desk with a computer, and there are trip hazards all over the place. That is not a safe space for them to be in. We don't really want them there, to be honest. We want them behind a screen, looking at the drone imagery, etc., getting that fact-based progress, and we'll come on to progress a little bit later. The last one, 7, an area close to my heart, is 4D technology. We want to move away from, and AI definitely can help us with this, move away from that kind of paper-based path of construction, and we want to move, or storyboarding in PowerPoint, which everyone loves, and it's got a place to start working stuff out, but we need to digitize that. If we can digitize that, then really the AI can really help us move forward with the path of construction. And with that, I hand over to Mark.
We defined 10 criteria to evaluate 7 opportunities. We divided those into 4 user groups, the 4 user groups being owners, EPCs, contractors, and service providers. We're going to talk about these briefly. The first one, which will be at the top of the list, is that we want to have a productivity impact. To explain some of these, criticality of the task, what does that mean? It means the relevance of the task being tackled by the solution in terms of how much it affects the overall project. In other words, is what we're doing actually going to help the project? Then we have generalizability, which is the consistency of the solution across different projects. What happens is that we get on projects and we make things work. We have problems up front, but we find solutions to them, and then we get to the next project and it seems like we have to rewrite the whole thing over again. We have stakeholder buy-in. We're going to see the importance of this. This is the ease in which the solution can be embraced by all stakeholders. And finally, as we have talked about throughout this presentation and is all over our report, is data availability, the degree to which the industry has relevant data to the task. But first, we're going to talk about the survey. So 65% of the survey respondents had 6 years of experience. The experience was mostly project management and construction management. It was mostly from EPCs. Over 40% of the participants were at least very familiar with iAWP. So we are very pleased with the feedback that we got. We are appreciative of what you've done for us. We had a very good team, not just the people on the stage, but also our entire team with some real heavy hitters and experience. But we didn't just rely on our own experience. We reached out to all of y'all, and y'all responded, so we appreciate that. So we look at the 10 criteria, and at the top of the list, all 4 groups believe that artificial intelligence can help us with a productivity impact. So that's what we want to see, productivity impact. What we see later on the list, third from the bottom, is safety. When we're productive, we're going to be safer. We are going to achieve greater safety results by being more productive. When we know what we're supposed to be doing, we know where we're supposed to be, we have information at our fingertips, and we're not doing rework, then we're going to be safer. So we are going to achieve greater safety as well. Through the 4 user groups, the top 5 criteria didn't change, we observed, which means the bottom 5 criteria did not change either. And speaking of the bottom, at the bottom of the list is stakeholder buy-in. So I like to joke that do we really need to conduct research to find out we have a stakeholder buy-in problem? So we know that happens. What happens when you want to implement new technology? It touches so many different departments, and those departments will say, that's not our procedure. That's right, it's not your procedure. We're trying to make it better. So we do have an issue with that. And we see this resistance towards new technology, but we believe that we can overcome some of this resistance with this research indicating the productivity impacts. And one of the things that we found throughout our research from beginning to end is issues with data availability. We need clean data to make anything work, not just artificial intelligence. We've seen that in our presentation. We see it from our surveys and the interviews that we conducted. So we discussed internally that we could use artificial intelligence to help clean the data, or we could do it right the first time so we don't have to clean the data with artificial intelligence. So what does clean data mean? It means consistency in format and frequency. So format is very important. Random change is the enemy, but we also need the data updated on a regular basis. These are very dynamic projects. We go to construction before engineering is even complete. So this is a very dynamic process, so it has to be up to date as well. We talk about disruptors. So we need disruptors. We need rebels to make things better and to improve things. That's great, but be aware of the knock-on ramifications. What happens on projects is random change is the enemy. So we need disruptors, but we have to think about the disruption that we are creating and how it's going to affect the overall project. So here we have our 7 opportunities, and we see our 4 different user groups. So the ranking of the top 6 was quite tight. Owners, as Martin has indicated, is that they want progress measurement. We capture progress at a very minute level all the way down to the tag. We have rules of credit against that. Once we capture it at a low level, we can roll it up to any level to make the client, to satisfy client requirements. Service providers understand how artificial intelligence can assist with workplace planning. Lots of technology providers out there now. There's lots of great software to help with workplace planning, but we can make it better as well. And then predicting constraints was indicated by all 4 user groups. EPCs would like to use artificial intelligence to help out material management. Ken and Kelly can explain a bit more about that. And service providers believe that artificial intelligence can help with the path of construction. How can a service provider help with the path of construction? Eric Crivella is going to tell you exactly how that can happen. Good. And as we've seen throughout our presentation and our report is that data collection is paramount. At the bottom of the list is using artificial intelligence to calculate an ROI. ROIs are very difficult to calculate. For the I in itself, the investment, if you have a technology provider, then you have a PO and you have a dollar amount. But as we said, the technology touches all these departments. It's very difficult to calculate the cost of touching all those different departments. And the return on investment can be difficult to calculate as well, because when a project is successful, so many people will stick their chest out and take credit for it. But when something goes wrong, then we know that then surely they blame the technology then. So we could use artificial intelligence to calculate an ROI, but from our research, there's more important things we can do with artificial intelligence. We know we're going to get an ROI in any event.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, so as mentioned there about progress management from an owner's perspective. So what we looked at initially is where are we today with this? So we're really good. I can't see where Jay is in the audience, but I know he's there somewhere. And we're really good now at writing the intent, the pre-contract alignment with the bidders, etc. What is iAWP? What is our expectation of them? We put in the requirements, etc. We specify that in the contract in all the right clauses, so not just now the construction management clause, but the project management, project controls, obviously progress management. Importantly, from a data point of view, the information management section, which sadly sometimes used to get missed. So we've got everything, and then we obviously pass it over to the contracting and the subcontractors for delivery. And then obviously then we would normally, what we'd want to see is progress management coming back. You know, we're moving away from producing monthly reports, which time we get hold of them are out of date. As I said, we want to see that now in real time. So That's it, moving forward. So just a call out to the 390 group yesterday, because Mick used an explain of exploding data. So I used the term big data, but you can see here the AWP planet is like dynamic. It grows literally from day one when we actually deploy AWP onto a project, hopefully in select, but moving into define and then execute as it grows and grows almost in front of you as you pump data into it. And it truly is satellites of information. All of these are cloud-based technologies from around the world, from the different engineering centers. So they're feeding data into the AWP machine as that data gets bigger and bigger. But that, you know, when we went from workplace planning to AWP, simple AWP, where we've just got model and schedule, documents now linked, etc., that was probably doable from a human's perspective, okay? And now as we pump more and more data into there and we want to see real-time progressing, that's going to need an army of people sitting either both at the job site and in the home offices, et cetera, feeding that data. That's a set of people that don't exist today, okay? That's the challenge. And we heard yesterday about construction not maybe being the area of choice for the younger generation. I think of them as the gaming generation and then the Minecraft generation, right? The Minecraft generation that love Minecraft and Lego, they want to build things. That's the people that we need to tap into. So we need to start thinking about differently about that type of person at the end there. But it's complex. So we see that AI really will help us move forward with dealing with that complexity, and maybe a new type of person, like a construction analyst, et cetera, really looking at that data, looking at the data that the AI technology is producing, and allowing the humans still to make the decisions in this space. So we see that, as we saw last year in the AI presentation and keynotes, this isn't like a black box where you just feed information to it and out pops the answer. This is lots of different small AI programs, maybe from different suppliers, all helping and feeding off of that data set. So neural networks, okay, predicting the work pack delivery, the delays, etc. We all know when we get to iAWP stage, it's like, okay, with the best will in the world, we're not quite following the path of construction. But what's the most optimum path of construction to keep us as close to that yesterday? We heard that from Jay yesterday with 390. So we think a bot can really help us with that. Computer vision, we're already working now, and for years through CII and previously with Fiatech, with Zachary, computer vision, track progress through cameras, etc. But that's really taking off now. The workforce are getting used to seeing cameras around, tracking progress. And also as we move into drones as well. Learning algorithms. So if we've got those other two sorted, then the learning algorithms look at the data, look at the outputs from the first two sets of AI, and it can control the path of construction. It's not controlling the path of construction like a big brother kind of aspect. It's looking at all the variables and offering the best opportunity of what you should be doing next. Yes, you can make decisions to ignore that and move on to something else, but it's going to work out all those areas. And I can see there'll be more and more different programs feeding off of themselves, but always with the human aspect. So the human and the machine working together in a completely different way. And I think then that becomes a really interesting world to encourage the next generation into construction. And with that, I think I'll hand over to Eric.
Thanks, Martin. Hey there. AI for the path of construction from a service provider's perspective. This is a really interesting perspective along these lines in terms of if you need a robust path of construction defined if you're going to do anything AWP-wise, and if you're going to automate that through AI and machine learning, it's critical to get it down from a data perspective. So the path of construction is a fundamental prerequisite in terms of expanding on the use of AI and machine learning to do anything else additional within there, if you will. Because you're defining the path of construction in terms of the startup, the system startup, and the engineering side of it, right? What's my path to the startup portion of it? The modularization and the offsites, your design for manufacturing assembly strategy, and you're also looking at it from a procurement perspective and a supply chain and your contract quilts. And then how does this all feed into where you're at from an integrated materials management perspective? So AI can really help along those lines. Oh, I skipped a slide. Sorry. You have this Okay, so automating that path of construction along the framework here that you see here from an EPC perspective, the path of engineering, the path of procurement, path of fabrication. It's not an easy problem to solve, but AI is well positioned to help and assist humans. It's not something that can be fully done in an automated manner, but to assist humans to do that. And this is a ripe area because when we interviewed the various folks for this survey, construction managers specifically referenced that they don't necessarily have the skills, or their project management teams don't always have the right skills in order to really do good path of construction planning. And again, it's really important to get this right up front, or else it's really tough to do anything else with it. Oop. Of course, I hit the wrong button. There we go. So automating the path of construction and doing it for the first one, right? So the POC one, where you're doing an interactive planning session and you have all these materials that you have to bring to bear. AI is ripe in order to help you form that and get the project execution plan, take the startup dates, the long lead items, all the permitting plans, et cetera. Take all this information and process it and help you put together an interactive planning session and the path of construction along these lines. So you can process all that data and then do something with it thereafter, right? In terms of setting this up for the use cases going forward in terms of how this would be done. So the key to this and what makes this all happen is it's all about the data. You need to be able to pull in data, validate it, integrate it, automate things, and then have orchestrated workflows related to AWP. This is the spider diagram that shows all these different project IT systems from an EPC perspective coming together into a virtual construction model that's kept constantly up to date with the plan versus the actual. And when you're able to link all these different project IT systems together, using this concept of digital threads is a critical enabler to do that. Digital threads are essentially tags that take the data requirements. You have all the attribution, you have this tag, but this tag knows where it is in the life cycle. And digital threads is a data-centric architecture in order to enable these systems to be linked together, validate the data, integrate it together, and then set up these automations and workflows in order to do AWP and other best practices such as integrated materials management, but to do that around this virtual construction model that's kept up to date, right? So digital threads developed out of the military side of things in terms of building military aircraft, and it's really a tool to help you standardize your data into an architecture so it becomes repeatable and allows you to effectively develop a standard model going forward so you don't have to repeat the same thing and rebuild it over and over again. So it delivers a veritable, game-changing, step-changing EPC type of ability to standardize your data and the workflows to make them reusable. So you can also map in your data standards, such as CFOS, is what was referenced earlier, into this as well in order to make it so you can take advantage of data standards and pack that into that. But again, it's about linking all the data together and getting it into orchestrated workflows in order to automate this. So going back to the path of construction a little bit, right? The basic workflows that you can do in order to automate the path of construction from an implementation perspective, you set it up, you develop your work breakdown structure, you have your 2D plot plan, and then you start going in there and putting some logic in there in terms of the schedule and the way you're going to sequence out the project. Start defining your boundaries for your CWAs and your CWPs, put the demarcation in there, visualize your path of construction from a 4D perspective, and then you end up with an interactive and iterative process to do your path of construction. And it's not just one and done, but you refine it, and keep doing it, and keep doing it. And then you also add in the system side of it, right? So, in making a transition from install by areas to systems turnover, bake that into that in terms of your startup sequence back into there. So these AWP workflows can be structured in such a way that you can largely automate the path of construction. It's one of the more promising areas that we discovered along the way in terms of the application of AI and machine learning into this process. And with that, we'll hear about another use case from Kenny Kelly on materials management.
I want to say good afternoon. It's really good morning. I know you hear Martin talk with his English accent, then you hear Larry the Cable Guy now. So we're taking material management from an EPC perspective. The one thing, is clear. I believe the theme has emerged here. We talk a lot about data, but we talk a lot about material. Material management is important whether I'm going to say it's critical for AWP, but it's critical for any project. When you think, even if you're doing a home project, if you don't plan your home project out, what do? You spend the day going back and forth to Home Depot. I know I do, right? So, whether you're doing a home project or you're building a barn dominium, you're the general contractor, it's important to have that material there. It's important to optimize the material delivery. Optimizing material delivery don't mean get all the material there right then before you start, but let's get the right materials in the right quantities, in the right sequence, at the right time. Otherwise, you got material sitting out there degrading. You don't want it just sitting. You don't want the last thing you're going to put in be there last. But AI can help with that. It's challenging for AWP because, one is you want visible tracking of where your material is, whether it's in the field or the material going to the fab shop. It's challenging to keep the material management system from going static. You want it dynamic. Humans are not good at this. Artificial intelligence is. And the thing about it is it may not do the work for you, but it enables you to make really, really good decisions. Existing AI and machine learning solutions address this challenge. Think about optimizing material delivery, but you have a set of algorithms that you can deploy that can constantly be working in the background to optimize material delivery.
Whoa. Kenny, are you saying that AI actually understands AWP and material management?
I'm telling you it does.
I don't believe that.
We started this out. I know I'm fixing to go way off script, but we're going to try to get there. But, when we started this, I thought about in 2004, when I started with doing work-face planning, working with Jeff Ryan and Robin Mickelson, they were talking about this is the new thing. This is the new thing. So Google wasn't that popular then. So we had Yahoo. So we go into Yahoo, I type in work-face planning. I don't get work-face planning. I get something about the Writers Guild of America. And then as we progressed, you put AWP in there, never see it on Google. Never see anything about AWP. If I type AWP in our company intranet, it comes up with something else. We have to put DAWP in there. But we started this research. I thought, this is pretty exciting. The first thing that I started about, I wish I had Audubon's Tom Cruise thing, because if Chris remembers, I started talking about the Minority Report, where they were sitting there and he was moving all this stuff around. That's what I thought we were going to get into. So I went out to ChatGPT just before this thing, right? And I said, I bet you this thing don't even know what AWP is. And so, went through, and we typed, is this thing going to move forward? Okay. If you watch at the bottom, we filmed it. I said, what is advanced work packaging? And lo and behold, look what come up. This thing wrote the most beautiful summary of AWP. Try it. So the future is not future anymore; it's present. I think our research study, by the time we got to the end of it, this thing caught up to us. So I'm gonna see if I can get this thing to go backwards. How do you get it to go backwards? Oh, there it is. There it is. Hold on. So since Chris interrupted me with this, we talk about existing AI solutions. I mean, think about this. I mean, we've seen this robot dog walking around. I thought that was the neatest thing. I think the lady that was running it thought, what's this creepy guy following? Because I was thinking about this thing the whole time. You know, we can put autonomous robots, think about it, autonomous robots in the laydown yard. It already knows what the spools are. We got computer vision already. We couple it up, fly a drone over there. It sees the iAWP release plan. It can see what the pipe spools are, see the reels faster than we can. And it's all about opportunity. It's serving us up decisions and replenishing the stores. Got a camera looking at a bolt bin. Your min-max, your 5/8 by 3.5 inch bolts are going low. It automatically, we got it set up for blockchain. It automatically orders the material. It can do this. We can do this now. We just kind of have to, think about the future a little bit. I got to go past this. Sorry. This was a greased machine till I did that. But solving near-term challenges, unlocking long-term gains, I believe we're here. I mean, think about a craftsman out there loading pipe spools up. What if we had autonomous robots doing this for us? No longer do you send someone home missing digits on his fingers because he was out there pushing things around and he mashed his fingers. Let the robot mash his fingers. He don't care. So we could have long-term gains managing the uncertainty. AI is good at managing the uncertainty. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Evan. Thank you.
So looking to the future, I don't think I can paint a better picture than Kenny just painted. But how do we get there? What's the roadmap, right? How do we get to that future that Kenny just so vividly described? And we want to return to the AI hierarchy of needs that Martin started us off with, and in particular to its foundations. Data, infrastructure, its storage, its collection, its processing. As we've talked about throughout this presentation, AI can help us there. We can think about IoT devices, reality capture. We can think about entity resolution for merging disparate data sets with disparate schemas. But there's another data challenge that I think is important to talk about, and that's the sharing of data. There are challenges there. We think about our intellectual property. We think about our trade secrets. We think about the value that we bring to market. AI can help us there. There have recently been new advances in the generation of synthetic data, which is a promising avenue for us to think about in terms of generating data that we can use for big data applications and AI. But it's also the purpose of a forum like CII, something that brings us together and allows us to think about how we productively maximize data as an asset, potentially by sharing. Next, we want to think about AWP and AI in the form of products. Right? We can't boil the ocean. We can't solve the entire AI AWP workflow all at once. So we need to focus on individual challenges in the AWP workflow and the application of AI to those challenges. As Kenny said, right, we want to think about short-term gains, how we can build those incremental building blocks that help us get to that more intelligent AWP workflow. It's going to be a process, but we need to iterate and we need to build trust. And to build that trust, most importantly, we need to engage our stakeholders, right? So we need what we call fusion teams. And this is another thing that CII does incredibly well. We need our academics. We need our technologists. We need our subject matter experts. We need our end users in the field, all in the same room together, right? And we need to develop solutions together and iteratively that solve real incremental problems. And this is how we begin to roll out intelligent AWP throughout the work process. So this is where we're going to close the presentation. In 5 years, we'll wonder how we lived without iAWP. I didn't write this slide. When I first saw this slide, I was like, y'all, I'm not sure that's true. We can be a conservative industry, but I think it needs to be true. If we are going to address our productivity issues, if we are going to answer the market demands for increased construction that we've heard about, I think we need to collectively make this true. So that's our call to action today. And with that, I'd like to return to the question that we posed to you at the beginning of this conversation, which is, what do you wish for the future of AWP? So I want to flip over to those Menti responses, start the conversation there, and see what themes have begun to emerge as you've walked through this presentation with us. All right, so now I'm ad-libbing, so work with me. All right, maybe scroll down a little bit more. All right. So we can scroll up to, if we can go back to the Menti and scroll up to the top. There are a couple of themes that I think are emerging that I want to talk about to spur our conversation before we open up to questions. So the first, AI will take care of AWP for me.
Get her done.
Where's that?
Hope I still have a job. An easy button. I think there's a conversation that we need to have about the human-AI interface, right? Like, what's the balance between automation, artificial intelligence, and human intervention? Can it take care of it entirely for me? Will I still have a job? Like, where do I fit in that process? I think the perspective that we landed on as a panel, and that I would invite folks to contribute to, is that it needs to be a balance. That the purpose is to surface the right information to the right people to make better decisions faster, but that we're not removing people from the loop. That there's kind of fundamentally always going to be human intervention and human intelligence in this process. I think it's also worth noting, as a technologist myself, right? Models can be wrong. You give a model enough time, it will be wrong. And so we need to employ a consistent process of verification and validation, right? We're trying to make ourselves more productive, more efficient, faster, but that doesn't mean that we can remove those checks and balances from the system. I think if we scroll down some other folks, and we see it in the terminology, standard practice, there's a theme that emerges around the standardization of AWP. And I think this is another conversation that we need to have that doesn't have a finished answer. The more standardized AWP is, the more standardized our terminology is, the more standardized our definitions are, the more we can prepare data and automate things, develop machine learning and AI applications. We obviously have to balance this with the value each of us and our companies bring individually, our means and methods, our special sauces, as it were, for performing the work and how we integrate with our own individual work processes. So thinking about standardization, how that advances automation and AI, but also how we think about how we execute individually. Safe, productive execution, automate processes, reduce bureaucracy. So I think we touched on these. If we scroll back up, the one last one that I wanted to touch on.
I think one of the big points to take away from this is people want it done for them. They want it as automated as possible,
Well,
right?
everybody wants an easy button.
There's, you know, and we say with AWP, there's no silver bullet. AI and machine learning is the closest thing to a silver bullet that we have for AWP in terms of trying to automate it and make it easier to deploy.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that is the goal. The last one I wanted to touch on before we open it up to questions is this idea of reuse, AWP from project to project, and replicability. One of the questions that I frequently get asked when applying AI in the EPC space is every project is unique, right? Everything's totally different. How can I leverage AI if every project that I'm executing is a different beast? And it is true, every project is a special snowflake. But the analogy that I like to use is if you're an expert piping engineer, right? You learn from your previous job as you move to your next job. There are core principles to what we do. And the goal in the application of AI is to take those core principles and learn from them so we can leverage them from job to job. It's not about solving the peculiarities or the genuine uniqueness of each job that we tackle. It's about leveraging that core knowledge, the principles that guide what we do, the logic that relates a pipe rack to a hanger and support to a spool, right? And building forward on that to improve our efficiency and execution. All right. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions. We're up against time. So please come contact the AWP CBA, continue to talk to us, and we look forward to your questions.
All right, thank you, team. Oh, we had another one join from the audience.
Promise I won't interrupt Kenny again.
Yeah, no more interrupting. So we've got lots of questions in here, but I'll try to hit the ones that have the most votes. Do you know of any real examples of AWP workflow already enhanced by AI?
Yeah, the path of construction one is real, right?
Yeah,
All right.
No. We're already looking at things, particularly in the domain of materials management, being able to physically track things on the job site from their arrival to the laydown yard, to staging, to being able to track them to final installation position against the 3D model and do that digital verification of the commodity in physical space against the 3D model and validate against the as-builts and your tolerances there. We've done some work in terms of thinking about work packaging and CWP and iAWP validation. So there are a lot of point solutions that are being actively worked in the industry, and I think that's the step change that we're looking for, right? Is kind of these individual point solutions that address aspects of the AWP workflow that ultimately get us to a more intelligent kind of integrated work process along the way.
Very good, thank you. What's the role of suppliers in AI and AWP, and why were they not included in this grouping?
Yeah, so I can take that one. We tried to find enough suppliers to draw some quantitative insights from the survey, but we just didn't quite get to the level of responses that would allow us to really report out on results and what it means for suppliers. So that's a thread that we're still actively pulling on. So if you're a supplier and you'd like to tell us a bit about your hopes for AWP, please reach out to us, and we'd love to send you our survey.
Great invitation, thank you. All right, here's an interesting one. In life, we must first learn to crawl, then stand, then walk, then run, and only then fly. Have the construction industry learned how to crawl with data already?
I'll I'll take that. So that's something that we have talked about extensively, and I was kind of pleased to see that in our research early on. We conducted interviews, and that came up that we need clean data to do anything. So we are crawling now, but we need to start walking. And after that, then we can start working with more technology providers and technologists to help us fly. So we are crawling. It's a known issue that we need clean data to make anything work in the first place.
That's also one of the things that AI and machine learning can solve is combining different data sets and helping to clean them up, right? So it's that level of validation and integration that can be facilitated via AI and machine learning.
Yeah, I would just say though, we're also, sorry Dario.
You all want to answer this question.
Yeah, we're just not consistent. So we have certain projects that are walking almost to the running stage, that's great. We have other projects are at the crawling stage, and it's trying to get everyone up to a certain level.
Well, I wanted to add that within CII, we're doing our part. There is a technology committee looking at digital threats. There is also a joint working group looking at AWP data requirements, as I mentioned before. We're also looking at developing data models aligned with data standards like CFOS. So once we have this released to the industry, in my opinion, that would be the foundation for success.
All right, well, thank you so much. Let's give thanks to the team here. Appreciate you.
Okay.